trying to tell you.
Yeah.
Is that, I understand LSU won a title, okay? But these SEC fans act like the SEC is the only conference in football, okay? And that's just not the case, man. That's just not the case. I mean, they're talking about Ohio State shouldn't even be in the playoff because they won 6 games. And if you look at national commentary, I mean, they're all over Ohio State. I mean, I feel like they beat Ohio State down all the time. You know, they want to say our conference is garbage and all, but they always are riding the SEC. I mean, they're on the SEC every time. And I get it. The SEC is the best conference in football. But it's not the only – you can't put – quit acting like the 4th team in the SEC is better than Ohio State, okay? Better than the Big Ten. Like, you're out of your mind. Even the 2nd Big Ten team. And I think we've shown it. I mean, look at the bowl record, okay? It reflects, man. Look at the bowl record every year. It just reflects.
It does reflect. And what you're speaking to, what you're basically speaking to, and I'll probably get into this during
you had that caller. I'm sorry, Mark, I don't want to cut you off. But I was listening to you earlier. You had that caller. He was pretty much non-coherent about the SEC. I mean, he was just, you were trying to talk to him. I'm just like,
yeah,
dude, are you not listening to what he's saying? You know what I mean? Go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, I was basically trying to point out to him that, number one, if we're just looking at 2020, up until the first time there was a bowl game played between Power 5 teams, we had nothing to rank these teams on against each other in terms of conferences. And I like
you're the only person who gives that perspective. Is saying, hey, look, we can't match it against this, because if you're saying, hey, this team's better than this, and they haven't played, guess what? You're doing it against other years. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's just not the case.
The SEC.
How many people would have said Clemson would have beat Ohio State? And look what happened tonight. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. If we go down, one thing that people need to understand, I made this statement the other day, that if you go through the bowl results year to year to year, I'm not just talking about 1 year, but if you pile up a good 6, 7, 8, 10 years, number one thing that people need to understand is that the SEC and the Big Ten play the most quality opponents for a few different reasons. Number one, they get elevated into more what used to be the BCS bowl games and are now the New Year's 6 bowl games than any other conference. Those teams get elevated into those games more so than any other conference. So what happens is their lesser teams have to play higher seeded teams in other conferences. I'll just give you one example. Minnesota went 3-6 in the Big Ten a couple years ago. PJ Fleck's first year, they went 3-6 in the Big Ten. They had to play an ACC team, Georgia Tech, that was 5-3 and tied for second place in their division in a bowl game, because there were so many Big Ten teams that got elevated into New Year's 6 games that they slotted up so much that a 7th place team in the Big Ten was playing a 3rd place team in the ACC in bowl games. So if you go through all the bowl games, the SEC and the Big Ten play the most ranked teams and the teams with the better records across the board. It's just fact. So they play the most quality competition, number one. So people just can't throw out bowl records and say, well, the Big 12 went 5-3 and the Big 10 only went 4-5. Well, who did they play? And the Big 10 and the SEC are typically playing higher quality teams. For example, the ACC plays a number of matchups against the group of 5. Just look at last year's bowl results. Like North Carolina played Temple. Pitt played Eastern Michigan. The Big Ten doesn't play a bunch of group of 5 teams in bowl games. So you can't just look at bowl records. You got to look at the quality of the opponents. And then to get to your point, yes, the SEC has a better bowl record than the Big Ten, but the Big Ten has been competitive. It's not a blowout. It's not like for every 20 games the SEC and the Big Ten play, the SEC wins 16-4. No. It's 11-9.
It's not even close.
It's 12-8. It's close. It's close.
Yeah, very sure.
Absolutely,
yeah.
It's close.
I mean, even our mid-range teams do a good job. You know, Northwestern just pummeled Auburn, but I mean, if you look at the records every year, it's pretty even.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Last year's a good example. They played 3 bowl games. Minnesota beat Auburn, and that was a close matchup, and it was a good matchup. They were both ranked around 10 to 15 in the country. So Minnesota beat Auburn. I'm trying to think of the SEC win. Anyway, there were 3 games in the SEC won 2, but one of them was 31-30. Tennessee beat Indiana 31-30. And then the SEC won another game. Why am I not coming up with the other game? So anyway, they played 3 close games.
Right.
And this is typical. It's typical.
Can I ask you another question real quick,
Sure.
Mark? Is that fine? Okay.
Absolutely.
I would like to know, because I think it's good for college football. Like, I don't want to be a Big Ten homer or something. And I don't want people to think I'm hating on the SEC. I think the SEC is the best conference in football, for sure.
Yep.
But I think it's good for college football if we got a West Coast team. So was the Pac-12? Yeah. When are we going to get them? I mean, I even forgot about it. Okay? I mean, come on. When are they going to get back into football? I feel like, here's the thing, man. I'm from Cincinnati. I went to the University of Cincinnati. I always root for the Bearcats, but if you're from Ohio, man, you always root for the Buckeyes, you know? And so I think UC can play with – UC is a good team, okay? But when are we going to see those Pac-12 teams coming in? And also, do you think UC could ever go to a Power 5 conference? I would love to see that. I'd love to see them join the Big Ten.
So I will say, before I go into that, I did come up with the other, as I went through the SEC teams. Alabama beat Michigan in a game that the final score looked like a blowout, 35-16. But if you watch the game, Michigan had a third quarter lead. It was more competitive than that. But that was the other game. So the SEC and the Big Ten played 3 bowl games last year. The SEC won 2 out of the 3. One of the games was 31-30. So they played very competitively against each other. Anyway,
right.
Well, it's
almost a split.
Yeah. I would say it's usually like 55-45 or 60-40 SEC. And again, we'll dive into that during the off season and look at the matchups and the history.
It's definitely not 90-10.
No.
It's not 90-10 like the mainstream media makes it out to be.
No, not even close.
So, yeah.
Not even close.
That's all I'm trying to say. That's all I'm trying to say.
Well, as you well know, Oregon is best positioned right now based on their recruiting and building that program to compete nationally. I think USC has the best resources overall, and of course, they've got the best talent base in Southern California to do it. I don't know if Clay Helton's up to that challenge to be that good.
Do you think it's weird that we're even talking about this? I think it's weird. That, like, we're talking about when's USC going to be relevant, or like when's
what's strange?
The West Coast going to be relevant. This is just weird.
I said this to somebody a few weeks ago.
When I was growing up, it was always like Arizona, even like Arizona State. You know?
Absolutely.
Like Jake Plummer.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
I said this.
It's so strange.
Yeah, I said this to a caller a few nights ago, and they couldn't believe it because they were making fun of the Pac-12 as being completely irrelevant. And I said, you know what? I started comparing conferences and breaking down the metrics like 10 years ago. And even as recent as like 2014 or 2015, the Pac-12, I remember one year, only about 5 years ago, they went 13-6 against the other 4 leagues. They were still playing at a high level. Then Oregon fell off after the championship game against Ohio State, and USC fell off, etc. But yeah, to your point, if you go back 20 years, there was no making fun of the Pac-12.